Hello there, my friends. This is Craig, and welcome to my channel, The Atheist Experiment. I want to begin this video by acknowledging that we are on Aboriginal land that has been inhabited by indigenous peoples from the beginning. As settlers, we're grateful for the opportunity to hike and film here, and we thank all the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. Long before today, there have been Aboriginal peoples who have been the stewards of this place. In particular, we acknowledge Niashinig Ming. We recognize and deeply appreciate their historic connection to this place. We also recognize the contributions of Métis, Inuit, and other indigenous peoples have made, both in shaping and strengthening this community in particular, and our province and country as a whole. The land we are on at this moment is owned by Chippewas of Nawash Unceded First Nation. Thank you.
Whew. So what's this called?
Well, I don't know how to call it, but it's very similar to what I used to eat when I was camping back home in Russia, or Soviet Union mostly. Mostly in Kapasians, which is Ukraine right now, and it used to call breakfast of a camper, Завтрак туриста. And the only difference here is I used rice, but back home we would use buckwheat.
So it's hamburger.
No, it's canned pork,
Okay. Like spam.
like kind of like spam, but it's actually from Russia.
Okay.
And rice, and baked beans,
And some seasoning.
and some seasoning.
Well, it's beautiful. I love it. It's hitting the spot. Temperature right now is about 0, but it's supposed to go down to what overnight? -12?
Yep. When we wake up tomorrow, it's going to be -11. By the time we're gonna get moving to hike, it's gonna be about -12, but it will feel like -20.
This is the life.
Yep. And we're really looking forward to go up the hill. It's not a mountain.
It's not a hill. That's deceiving.
It's
too.
a cliff.
It's not a mountain,
It's a cliff.
but it's a pretty high elevation with a very steep climb
Yep.
up a rocky face.
That's what I'm looking forward to. We have dessert too. Can you check on the water?
Still wet. So this is our setup here. It's about, what time do you think it is?
7:20.
It's about 7:20. We just finished our dinner. Luba is warming her butt over the fire. And it's about 0 degrees right now. It's supposed to get to -12 overnight. And supposed to be -12 tomorrow, feeling like -20. I'm not sure why that is. Maybe there's a breeze or something. But that's our setup. You promised me a dessert. Joe Sluey. Joe Sluey. This is where we're gonna sleep tonight. In that little trailer. It's less than the size of a double bed. That's what we're going to do. So, here we are. It's about 7 o'clock in the morning. It's minus 15 outside, and it's about 0 in the trailer here. This little candle was enough to just keep it from getting too cold, but now I'm going to get dressed and go outside. Okay, here we are. Good morning.
Good morning.
We got the stove going, boiling some water to make some coffee. We got our food all cut up and ready to cook, and we're just trying to stay warm at this point. It's about minus 15. Here we are starting on this section of the Bruce Trail. This trail is closed. What else is new? I'll stop there.
So here we are, walking along on native land, and I can't help but think about all the indigenous unmarked graves of children discovered last year in Canada. It saddens me to imagine what these poor families went through. There are so many unanswered questions. And you may think that these atrocities happened way in the past, but you'd be wrong. Residential schools were being operated right up into the 1980s. I would have been a teenager at the time. It was ending, but I had never heard of such a thing. I never really knew anything about the treatment of Native peoples by Canadians until I was in my 40s. How is this possible? How had I never heard of this issue until so late in my life? Was it a dirty little secret that no one talked about, or was it all deliberately covered up? I can be accused of being out of touch sometimes, but come on, I should have heard something. It turns out these residential schools were funded by the Canadian government and operated by the Catholic Church. What? Are you kidding me? And even now, First Nations are fighting the Catholic Church to release records that would help identify the remains of these children. Not only did the Catholic Church actively take part in rounding up indigenous children and taking them away from their families so they could be assimilated into Catholic dogma, they also committed hundreds, maybe even thousands of murders. And now they continue to this day to get in the way of the investigation. If any other organization other than the Catholic Church had been suspect in these horrendous crimes, the courts would have had their records seized, their accounts seized, assets frozen, while the police conducted their investigation. But no, we seem to be giving them a pass. It's the epitome of religious privilege. what there is some assumption of goodness just because they are a church. Well, fuck that. The Catholic Church is a criminal organization, and I would love to be alive long enough to see it crumble, along with the publicly funded Catholic School Board. Our tax money supports the Catholic School Board, a branch of this criminal organization. It sickens me. And it's hard to remain a proud Canadian when we have this kind of recent history. I love my country, and we do good things here, but I'm disappointed at how our government is handling this. Not to mention that there are indigenous communities right now that don't have clean drinking water or indoor plumbing, and the suicide rates in these communities is through the roof. We need to do more and fast. I want to be a proud Canadian. We have so much to be proud of. Is it wrong for me to be a proud Canadian? I just don't know right now. I'm confused about how I feel about my country. And now we have this truckers' protest against vaccine mandates. I'm all about the rights of people to protest and voice their opinions. But at what point do the rights of the protesters infringe on the rights of the rest of the population? They certainly don't speak for me. I support their right to protest, but I don't support their reason for protesting. They think their rights are being oppressed. Take a look at our indigenous population if you want to see real oppression. How dare they claim oppression when they are doing exactly what our Constitution was set up to allow them to do? I saw a pickup truck the other day with a huge Canada flag mounted on the top of it, blowing in the wind as they drove. And I just knew right away why they were displaying the flag this way. It's because they're supporting the protests. But I'm Canadian too, and those are not my views. But I'm afraid that if I put a huge Canadian flag on top of my vehicle, people will make the same assumption about me and that I support the protests. But I don't, and that's not fair. You don't speak for me, you don't speak for all Canadians. But it seems that this is how the rest of the world sees us now. Canadians are against vaccines. I saw a report on the news that said other countries are following Canada's lead and joining in the protest in their own respective countries. And I'm like, what? Wait. These views are not my views, and certainly not the views of the majority here. But now the rest of the world thinks we're all just a bunch of flag-toting anti-vaxxers spewing anti-science rhetoric. And suddenly, I'm, for the first time in my life, not so proud to be Canadian anymore. I'm concerned about how the rest of the world views me. I love my country. I love living here. Everyone has a right to be patriotic when it comes to the place they grew up and love. I feel like that's been taken away from me. Our reputation of being a forward-thinking, progressive, and kind country has been tarnished now by a handful of misguided, misinformed, and sometimes willfully ignorant protesters. So, where do I go from here? What do I do now? Are we moving into a new era where Canadians are not embraced by the rest of the world as peaceful, generous, and an over-polite nation? I may have to let go of the idea of the country I once loved and accept a new Canada and just continue to do my part to be a progressive and respected force in the world for positive change. Canada is a beautiful place, and it's worth fighting for. And my fight will be a personal one. Just me, living my life as I always have, setting an example of what I wish for all Canadians to be. I guess I will try to be an example of how to engage people respectably and kindly. have conversations. Try to have fun with it. Try not to expect big changes from a single conversation. I will shovel my neighbor's sidewalk. I will be polite and courteous at the McDonald's drive-thru. I will give $5 to the homeless person on the corner. I will be there for my friends and family when they need me. And I will listen to what someone has to say, whether I agree with them or not. I will say sorry when I mess up. I will say thank you when someone says something nice to me. I will try to appreciate every day how lucky I am to live in a place where I have so many freedoms, and I will recognize those that don't. I will try to be an example for my children, and I will try to help them understand how to think and not necessarily what to think. These are little things we can all do, I guess. Let me know what you think in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Please enjoy the rest of the video. Sorry for my rant, and thanks, eh?
So there's a porta potty sitting here where we're parked, and I walked over here to pee this morning, and I noticed that the occupied sign is red, and you can only close these things from the inside. So I immediately thought, oh damn it, our trip is over. There's a dead person inside there, because you can't lock them from the outside. So I peed first because we're not saving the dead guy now. And then I went over there and I grabbed the top of that door and I bent it down and I could see inside. And fortunately, there's nobody in there, so we're good. Crisis averted. Hey there, my friends. If you enjoy my videos and you would like to see more, subscribe. And don't forget to scroll down and hit the little bell so you can get notifications. I will be putting out a video every Sunday evening, and if you like it, hit the like button. And if you don't like it, hit the dislike button. Also, leave a comment and let me know what you think. Catch you next time, and have a great week.